It's time, Fort Wayne. Your sports, your station. It's the Sports Rush with Brett Rump.
Max Landis.
Covering all the topics that hit a nerve here in the Summit City.
Clark, 11 yards, touchdown.
Only on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Now here's your host, Brett Rump.
The greatest, most interesting, most important person of all time.
You are incredible!
Listen to me over and I'm going, yeah, well, you're half right.
What is this, amateur hour?
This is going to be huge.
I believe this is going to be our finest hour.
Just when I think you've said the stupidest thing ever, you keep talking.
I think that's the worst thing I've ever heard.
That boy ain't right.
The simplest way to put it, I have problems.
Welcome to the alleged show.
The redown, 2 to go with this work week. It is the Sports Rush, your daily local sports fix, 4 to 6. I am Brett Rump along with Adam Lundy, and you are connected on the Parkview Sports Medicine text line at 260-447-8500. Questions, comments, or suggestions, whatever's on your brain. Of course, we talked earlier about Dan Hurley. Is he this generation's Bobby Knight? A lot of similarities in my mind with the behavior, the ego, the out-of-control temper, and it's certainly something that you kind of turn the cheek when you're winning national titles. But hey, if Connecticut goes a couple of sub-500 years back to back, if you get some new administration, are they going to be as forgiving? Because Bobby Knight got away with it for many years. A lot of the very similar behaviors that we're seeing from Dan Hurley. And we laughed at it. It was all part of his persona. And people in Indiana kind of justified it or validated it because that's what makes him a winner. And, he's tough. Parents want to send their kids to him because it's going to be like going through boot camp. They're going to come out the better man on the other side. And I know there were plenty of positives with Bob Knight, and he wasn't the same guy off the court that he was on the court. And I don't know a lot about Dan Hurley's personality away from the basketball court, but I can tell you what we see, and there's a lot of similarities with Dan Hurley and Bobby Knight. So I feel like Dan Hurley is this generation's Bobby Knight. Am I right? Let me know, 260-447-8500. Also, coming up tonight down in Indianapolis, the Pacers take on the Los Angeles Lakers as LeBron and Luka make their only appearance in Indianapolis all season long. Kind of fascinating that with LeBron making the trip into Indy for the game tonight, that he showed up and spent an hour plus with Pat McAfee earlier today.
Yeah, you're here in Indianapolis for the game tonight. You like being in the media. Why not get on one of the bigger media shows and have some fun? But
he likes media that he's controlling.
Sure.
He hasn't done a lot of interviews, especially long format interviews like that. So it was a real score for Pat McAfee.
Definitely huge.
And having a show based in Indy, it's not like you get a lot of on-site guests. And I think they taped it, but I'm not sure exactly when they taped it. I'm not exactly sure all the details. Somebody's going to tell me, yeah, but it wasn't live. It doesn't matter. It was still LeBron in the studio in Indianapolis with Pat McAfee. And he was there for over an hour. So credit to Pat McAfee for scoring a big one with LeBron James. But tonight it's LeBron at Gainbridge Fieldhouse as the Lakers take on the Pacers. Lakers have been sliding of late. Things started really well with LeBron and Luka. And over the last 10 games, 7 losses for the Lakers. In fact, they've lost their last 3 coming in to Gainbridge Fieldhouse tonight.
Yeah, it was all, Luka magic when he first arrived and started playing with LeBron James, and everything was sunshine and daisies. And then LeBron James had that groin strain, so he sat out for a couple weeks here. And even when he's come back, they still have had a couple losses here. So he's also listed as probable for tonight's game due to that left groin strain, but it's looking like he's going to play.
And, well, it was good enough to go hang out at the studio with Pat McAfee. So, yeah, he should be playing.
Oh, those are the same things, NBA games and a studio interview.
Well, you know who was there, too, was Steve Nash.
Oh, yeah, because Steve Nash is actually going to be taking over on LeBron's podcast in place of J.J. Redick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, Steve Nash was hanging with LeBron, so they must have been doing a podcast while they were doing the appearance with Pat McAfee or something. But Steve Nash was there as well.
Yep.
And, of course, Pat McAfee's studio has a basketball court. So Steve Nash was showing he still got it. He had to take some shots and show that he still had it. But anyway, LeBron is in Indianapolis tonight. A lot of people probably right now en route down to Indianapolis to catch the game.
Oh, it's going to be a big crowd. I mean, anytime you get the Lakers, LeBron James, Luka Doncic in town, that's huge. So I bet it's going to be rocking at Gamebridge tonight.
Starts a big run of basketball down in the state capitol. You've got the Pacers and Lakers tonight. Tomorrow you've got open practices for the Sweet 16. And so, with Purdue, Kentucky, and Tennessee, scalpers couldn't have been happier with that group, right?
Oh, they're making some money this weekend.
Because all of a sudden there's a demand for tickets because you've got Big Blue Nation, you've got the Tennessee Orange, you've got Purdue. And then I don't know, does Houston travel well? I'm not sure what kind of demand there'll be for Houston, but I can tell you this. Tickets that are within eye range without binoculars of the court, they're going for about $1,000 or close to it. So,
man.
Yeah, it's a pretty pricey ticket if you want good seats down in the lower section.
Yeah, like you said, somewhere where you don't need binoculars.
If you're going to spend $400, $500, $600, you can get a mid-range seat.
Yeah.
And the cheapest seats are going to be about $200 to $300.
And that's what, the 600 level, basically?
That's the sky level. That's way up.
Wow. Yeah. I think it would probably look better on TV for a lot less money than that 600 section.
But open practices are on Thursday. The games are on Friday. And then on Saturday, over at Gamebridge Fieldhouse on the other side of downtown, you've got the IHSAA state championships. The state finals will take place, 1A, 2A, in the morning session, then a couple of hour break before the evening session starts with Class 3A and 4A. And then on Sunday, it's the Elite Eight, and you'll have a game in Indianapolis to decide who goes to the Final Four. So, big weekend, not far away.
It's going to be lit down in Indy, as the kids say.
I did look at the tickets, but not me. Of course, transfer portal news, it continues. Indiana loses more players with Carlisle, and who was the other?
Yeah, it was Miles Rice.
Miles Rice.
Yeah.
And Kanan Carlisle are both into the portal. So, man, you pretty much wiped out all the guards.
Yep.
Because Anthony Leal's gone, and Trey Galloway's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Then you lose these two guys. Ja'Kai Newton, who was out injured for this season, he has transferred. I'm trying to think who they've got.
You also lost Cups.
And Gabe Cups, yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much took all the guards. They're gone.
It's like you said earlier, if Luke Goody doesn't get that, medical eligibility year, they're going to have a very depleted roster.
Not going to know anybody.
Yeah, it's going to be brand new.
And so we'll see. But I'll tell you this. I'm going to offer some advice. Gentlemen, do not get into an argument with your wife about the transfer portal.
Or NIL.
Or NIL. I mean, we weren't even addressing NIL. I was just talking about how so many different players from the mid-majors are in the transfer portal, all hoping to cash in at the high major level, and how the best of the best end up getting sucked into the higher level. And, I can tell you from experience that despite when it's contrary to the facts, the wife is always right. Or she hangs up.
Which means she's still right either way.
Ah, boy. Yeah, it didn't go well.
Well, you tried, and that's what matters. You made a valiant effort.
I did, and I actually spoke the truth. She thinks everybody's in the portal because, well, if the team lost, then, yeah, guys are going to go find a team to win. And I'm like, no, that's not what this is about. It's not like guys think, geez, I can't believe we lost our first game of the tournament, so now I got to go find someplace else to play. That's not what's – and she's old school. She doesn't understand today's landscape of college basketball. And so she's thinking, well, if that many people are transferring, they're obviously disappointed with how the season went. I said, no. She goes, they don't leave if they're not. I said, no, there's money to be made. And you have a choice of being a star player at the mid-major level or being perhaps a role player or perhaps not even playing at all. you could end up with multiple transfers that come in, and maybe there's one that's better than you are, and you think you're getting a spot, but then that spot gets absorbed by somebody else, because it's not like, freshmen used to be recruited to a college, and they would know who was graduating and what roster spots were open. Where would I fit in with the other 9 or 10 guys that are going to be on that roster? Think about the situation at Indiana right now. You have no idea. I mean, Tucker DeVries is going to be there. Other than that, don't know. And so if you're a good mid-major player and Indiana wants to bring you in, you're kind of in the middle, because it all depends what happens after you agree. Is it, all of a sudden they get a bunch of high major players that come in with bigger pedigrees and it knocks you down and you're the 11th or 12th man on the roster then when you thought maybe you were going to be 4th or 5th? I mean, you still get your cash, but is it worth it? And so it's a jungle out there, Adam. It's a jungle, and it's difficult to make those decisions, because for a lot of college players, maybe they don't care if they play. Maybe they're at a point where it's like, my basketball career is pretty well over anyway. I'll just go somewhere where I can attend some practices, go to games, hang out with the guys, and get a nice paycheck. Maybe some guys really are determined to come back, have their best year, and prove something on the court. It's a big decision for these guys to make, and they're still young men that are heavily influenced by the people around them, and some of the people around them are like my wife. They don't get it. They do not get it. They don't know what the full risk is, because they're blinded by the dollars and cents and where the decimal point falls. It's a big number. For a lot of players, it's a big number. And sometimes you lose sight of all the risk you're taking when it's like, doesn't matter. Look at the money.
Yeah, and I think that it's, clear to see that if it was only about winning for a lot of these players, we wouldn't see, players constantly transferring into sub 500 Power 5 conference teams. And every team in most Power 5 leagues is bringing in somebody regardless of their record the past season. So
do you have our bracket, by the way?
I do have our bracket.
I'm looking. Do you have our filled out bracket, our listeners bracket?
I sure do.
Okay, let's go ahead and get a call in.
Let's do it.
Let's get one call in before we take the break. And see if we can get part of the bracket filled out. Where are we at? We're at the Elite Eight, or what are we picking?
We are picking the Elite Eight. You got it.
Okay, so we'll get through a couple of games, and then we'll have another caller pick a couple of games, and then we'll be in our Final Four. So if you want to be a bracket picker, and your name is not Whiskers, we'll let you pick. But here's the thing. You've got to pick among the teams that have been chosen before you. And now, are there any games that are completely off the board because every game has at least one team?
Yep, we're good on all of them, yeah.
All right, let's get to the phone line, see who we've got to play our listener bracket challenge. Who's this?
Kent.
Hey, Kent. All right, so, Adam, where are we going to go? You just pick.
So are we going to give them left or right, basically? 2 matchups?
Yeah, right. 2 matchups.
All right, do you want to do left or right?
Got to go right.
All right, on the right side, we've got Arizona taking on BYU.
Oh, boy. Let's ride with BYU.
Oh, taking the upset. All right.
Don't know how big of an upset that is. BYU's played pretty well.
They have been rolling. I just going by seeding. All right, down on the bottom, it's Houston taking on Kentucky Wildcats.
No. Houston takes on Purdue, man.
Not in our listener bracket.
Oh, we're one round past that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So this has
so we already have Houston and Kentucky.
Got Purdue losing.
Yeah, somebody picked Purdue to lose. So now you've got to choose between Houston and Kentucky. I get it.
We're good.
All right, we're going Houston. I can't pick Kentucky.
Taking the Fighting Kelvin Sampsons. All right, we're all set.
Okay, well, maybe that might be maybe I could go Kentucky then.
Yeah, if you're an Indiana fan, you can't win either way.
No.
Because you're either picking Sampson or you're picking Big Blue Nation. It hurts either way.
Yes, it does.
All right, Kent, I got to let you go. Thanks for joining our little bracket challenge here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our listeners have spoken. I said, now I realize we're one round past where
You were so confused.
Yeah, I was, because I thought, wait a minute. It's not Houston and Kentucky. It's Houston, Purdue. It's Kentucky and Tennessee. But those games were already picked.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, our listeners had Purdue actually losing in the second round to McNeese.
So they picked Houston to beat Clemson.
They picked Houston to beat McNeese.
Really?
Yes. They had McNeese over Purdue in the round. Yeah.
So they had McNeese winning 3 games?
Yep, over Clemson and over Purdue. And then they lost to Houston, so winning 2 games.
Oh, 2 games. Okay.
Only 1-1.
260-447-8500. If you want to be our next bracket challenger, we'll go ahead and take the call during the break.
Yeah.
260-447-8500. Call us now. We'll take a quick time out. We'll come back on the other side. It's the Sports Rush on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. They're playing the championship of the CBI down in Daytona Beach, and right now, about halfway through the first half, it's tied up 15 apiece with Illinois State and Cleveland State. Kind of interesting. My former roommate, when I first started being the play-by-play voice of the Mastodons, was the sports information director at the time, Bill Salyer. And Bill Salyer went to Memphis, then on to Illinois State. He's been at Illinois State for a number of years. And he is still sports information media services for Illinois State. So he is there, plus Cleveland State from the Horizon League. So I feel so connected with this championship game. Okay, we're filling out our bracket, and we've got a caller ready to go to make some picks. It is Andrew who's joining us now here on the Sports Rush. So, Andrew, Adam's going to give you a couple of games. Got to find out who you've got as winners heading to the Final Four.
All right, this should be pretty easy for you, Andrew, just by process of elimination here. First, we've got Auburn taking on Iowa State.
Such an advantage that some of the games have been played already. So there's only one of those two. Yeah, only one of those two are still alive. Which one do you take?
We'll go with Auburn.
Oh, good choice.
I feel bad because we're really not giving him a choice here. Down at the bottom, we've got Florida taking on St. John's, who is eliminated.
Yeah. Another easy one, Florida.
Okay, so we've got to give him the matchup.
Yeah.
We've got to give him the next game.
All right, it's Auburn taking on Florida in the Final Four. That would be a heck of a matchup.
This makes up for the fact we gave him a couple of easy ones because is Auburn and Florida really playing in a Final Four game?
Yeah, they'd be in a Final Four if they both win, yeah.
Let me say that bracket. I can't believe it because that would be, to me, that's like a national championship game. Wow.
Tough coin flip game, but I'm going to go with Florida.
All right.
It is a coin flip game, too. SEC schools.
Going with the Gators.
That's a tough one. That is a tough one. That one more than makes up for the fact we gave him 2 gimmies.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, Andrew. Appreciate you calling in. Have a great evening.
Not a problem. Appreciate it, guys. A big fan. Listen to you guys every day on my way home from work. Keep up the great job, guys.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Andrew. We should have let Andrew fill out a whole dang bracket if he's going to say such nice things.
Get the rest of the Final Four.
We've got Ken Sterling's going to be joining us probably in 10 minutes or so. I say probably, yeah.
Yeah, he might be.
I hope he's available to talk to us today.
I'll give him a call, see if he wants to hop on.
We just talked about that Auburn-Florida possibility in a Final Four. Wow.
Yeah, and then we haven't had anybody pick this one yet, but on the other side, it would be Houston taking on BYU.
Oh, I think I'll take the Cougars.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so let's talk about the Sweet 16 games. Let's rank them in order.
Let's do it.
Okay, I'm going to rank them from 8 to 1 as far as how I think the game, in my mind, it's like a or it's, pretty good. Oh, really great. Can't wait for it. Or grab the popcorn and the beer. This one's going to be a classic. And so I kind of went with that in mind. And so I started at number 8. The game that to me is is Ole Miss, Michigan State.
Really?
And I know that's going to bum out Sparty because he's probably all pumped up for this one, but I don't know. I just don't see the drama. I know it's Chris Beard, Tom Izzo. You can try to make storylines out of it. It just isn't exciting me. I think Michigan State's going to win. I'm going to go Ole Miss, Michigan State as number 8 of my ranked teams in the Sweet 16. Number 7, I'll take Texas Tech, Arkansas.
Yeah, that's fair.
One team we didn't expect to be here. Another team we never watched all year long. Admit it. You have not seen Texas Tech play a game all season. Admit it.
I have not seen the Red
There's
Raiders.
not a chance anyone has seen Texas Tech. Now, you do remember Grant McCaslin, their coach,
Yes.
was one of the names I was throwing around for the IU job. That faded, but here he is playing in an elite in a Sweet 16. Has a chance to get to the Elite 8, but that's my number 7 game. Number 6, BYU, Alabama.
Yeah.
It's
What do you give that one a meh?
All these games kind of have the potential to be entertaining and be competitive, but I had to rank them 1 through 8. So yeah, it's like a it's one of those. It's like it'll be interesting to watch, but it's not like I'm going to clear my schedule just to watch BYU, Alabama.
Not chomping at the bits.
Now, this game I do think is going to be a fun game to watch, but I'm worried about what might happen to Maryland.
Okay.
And I don't want to see the Big Ten get thumped bad. So, Florida, Maryland. I think Maryland feels like they escaped one last week and they enjoyed it and maybe enjoyed it too much. Florida's on a mission. I think Florida beats Maryland. And then number 4, I've got Duke, Arizona. I don't know if they're both blue bloods, but they're both big name programs that have had a lot of success. Both have won national titles. So in my 4 spot, I've got Duke, Arizona. In number 3, I've got, it's a rivalry game. It's a border war. It's Kentucky, Tennessee from Gamebridge Fieldhouse.
That one's going to be great. You said it's state rivalry right there.
Yep, and from the same region, I've got Houston, Purdue at number 2.
All right.
I couldn't take Michigan, Auburn off the board as my number 1 game to watch out of the Sweet 16.
Should be a good one.
I just enjoy watching this Michigan team. I pulled for Dusty May because he was an FAU guy, and being in Boca and having a house in Boca, you feel a connection there. The Mastodons played Michigan, so it's a team you're pretty familiar with because you've done some research and prep on them. Brian Bush, the play-by-play voice for Michigan, has been kind enough to join our show a couple of times, and so Auburn, Michigan is the game I'm looking most forward to out of the Sweet 16.
All right, I'll give you my top 4 real quick. Number 4, I'm going to go Arizona, Duke. Number 3, I'm going to go Purdue, Houston. Number 2, I'm going to go Michigan, Auburn. And number 1, I'm taking that state rivalry, Kentucky, Tennessee.
Yep, that border rivalry.
Yep, I think that one always lives up to its expectations.
It's an SEC rivalry. It's a conference, matchup.
Yeah.
And, the best part about it, the worst part about it is an SEC team is going to advance, but the best part about it is the SEC is going to lose one more team.
Ups and downs, my friend.
Well, the good part is the Big Ten has 4 teams still in it.
Yep.
And they're not going to knock each other out this round. So you could have 4 teams advance. How many teams could potentially advance from the SEC? You could have Auburn would be 1.
Yep.
Kentucky, Tennessee is only going to have 1, so that's 2.
Yep.
Florida could advance. That's 3. Alabama is 4. Arkansas is 5. And Ole Miss is 6. So they could still get 6 teams. Big Ten could max out at 4 teams.
You got it.
But the Big Ten, if they get 4, they'll eliminate 2 SEC schools. No, 3 SEC schools.
Yep.
Because you've got Ole Miss, Florida, and Auburn from the SEC all taking on Big Ten schools. So if Big Ten gets 4, the SEC will have only 3. Max. That's good.
We'll see. Conference domination.
Yeah. Get conference scoreboard.
Yeah.
Conference scoreboard watching.
Speaking of scoreboard watching. No.
Yeah, it's scoreboard. I looked up, and it's, of course, on a commercial.
Of course.
260-447-8500, the Parkview Sports Medicine text line, 260-447-8500. Down in Indy tonight, Pacers, Lakers. Adam, who you got?
I'll take the Lakers. I just feel like they've had the Pacers number for some reason. Although it is at Gamebridge, that's tough. That's tough. Pacers don't like to lose at Gamebridge.
No, it'll be a raucous crowd. I think at close game, I think the Pacers win a close one. Maybe like 116 to 114 or 113, something like that.
You are just under the over-under. It's 236.5. So you were right around 230.
What'd I say? I said 116, 114. So I was at 230. And what was the over-under?
236.5.
Okay, so they think it's going to be a pretty high-scoring game.
Yep.
And who's favored?
Indianapolis is wow, it actually opened at Indy -1.5, but it's gone all the way to LA -1.5.
Huh. All right. No injuries of note with the Pacers?
No, nothing new.
With a healthy squad, I got to think the Pacers have the advantage. All right, we got to take a break because Kent Sterling's going to be joining us on the other side. Always fun to talk to Kent Sterling, and we'll do that next here on the Sports Rush on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. I hope Fort Wayne fans take advantage of the Mastodons getting a home game against a Power Conference opponent this Friday in the WNIT after the win last night against Old Dominion, 87-61. Mastodons will be back at the Gates Center taking on the Butler Bulldogs. Coach Marcasano's alma mater, also Coach Parkinson, who coaches Butler, was her former boss when she was an assistant under Coach Parkinson in back in the day. But that is Friday night, 7 o'clock at the Gates Center, and tickets and information available at gomastodons.com. Right now, we are joined on our guest line from KentSterling.com. It is Kent Sterling. And Kent, I think down in Bloomington, it's time to go ahead and post the sign in the locker room. Would the last player please turn out the lights?
Yeah, that's an empty dormitory down there. The basketball dormitory is you got Bryson Tucker kind of running around in there, knocking on doors, seeing who's there to play some euchre, and he's just going to have to play solitaire, I guess, for a while. Yeah,
you got to rebound your own ball right now because there's nobody left in the building. But what do you think about this? Does it send any message about anything? I mean, the loyalty to Woodson or a resistance of playing with Darian DeVries? What do you make of it?
I do think it's loyalty, and I think the loyalty is misplaced. You know, we've gone through turmoil in media where managers are gassed periodically, and nobody quits along with them. You know, nobody's leaving the radio station because a program director or a GM gets fired. You hunker down, get ready for the next guy, and hope he brings some new energy to the place, and you learn something new from him or her. And I really think that that's what these guys should have done. I think that a guy in particular like Miles Rice, I think Miles Rice was misused. I don't think he was disciplined correctly in the way he was taught to play consistently, because he was completely inconsistent throughout the year. And I think a guy like Darian DeVries is going to come in and he's going to demand consistency, and he's going to make it uncomfortable. And in that discomfort, there's growth. And I think these guys, as is the case for most 18 to 22-year-olds, I think they're repelled by the opportunity for adversity and the growth that it can bring. And I think it's a real shame. And I wish parents would step in and say, look, you're really missing, you're missing what the good can really be in this situation. And I don't think anybody's doing that for these kids, and I think it's a shame.
What's Coach DeVries got to do? Does he have to prioritize completing the staff? Has that got to be next, or does he have to just work the portal solo until he's able to work out the rest of the coaching staff?
I think you got to get the staff in place quick, and because 5 guys are going to be able to work or 6 in this case, going to be able to work the portal a lot more effectively than 1. And so you got to get your staff in place. And I think there are a couple of guys already in Bloomington. They haven't announced the hires, but a couple of guys are coming in from West Virginia. And then you've got a guy like Drew Adams, who's at Cincinnati and is a Bloomington native, went to South High School and served under Tom Crean for 2 years and really established a nice foothold for Crean in the state of Indiana. I've heard rumors that he's coming. I think you've got to get that done sooner rather than later, and then go get the guys. And I think that people are going to wait on Indiana maybe. And Indiana's got a lot of money to lavish on transfers, and the money's going to talk. And hopefully the money isn't the first thing that talks. because if you just go out and buy players, you're going to be getting guys whose first motivation is money, not winning, not, playing together, not fit like DeVries wants them to. And I think that is part of the cultural problem that's plagued Indiana under Woodson, and that's got to get corrected immediately.
And I brought this up before. I don't know if we've spoken about it, but I got to ask you while it's on my mind. When you fill out the coaching staff, if there's a spot available for Dane Fife, do you make that call, and do you think Dane would answer the phone call?
Dane's gone kind of into investment stuff, and so I know he's trying to build a business where he's doing that. I don't know to what extent. I haven't talked to him in a couple of months. I don't know how successful he is, but if he can come in and trump the money, I love Dane. I think Dane is just an outstanding basketball guy. He's a really good human being, and in the right circumstance can really be a benefit for that program. I'd hire him in a minute, but I haven't heard anything about that coming to pass.
So what are you hearing? The Tucker DeVries situation is kind of interesting because I think that gives you a big name to build around, but what's the delay? When will he know his status on the medical red shirt?
It's when the NCAA gets around to making the ruling, but because he only played 8 games and none of them were after he got injured, then that's I think that's an automatic rubber stamp approval, and it should be pretty quick. So that is one that is certain to come to pass. And then you've got a guy like Connor Enright, who's up at DePaul, or was up at DePaul, but played at Drake prior to that, who looks like he's not a solid commit, but an almost solid commit. And so there's maybe a starting point guard to work with DeVries. And Sicily is going to maintain his commitment, and that's a good thing. And so Goody is a longer shot in getting that medical redshirt year approved because he did play at the end of the season, and he did play 10 games, and that makes it a little bit tough to get that thing approved. But we'll see. Xavier Johnson got approved, and he was even more dicey than Luke Goody. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, I think Xavier Johnson had like 11 games. He was right at the cusp, if I'm not mistaken. I was trying to remember exactly where he ended up. But what kind of player do you think Coach DeVries will be looking for? Is there a prototype, or is there a certain skill set that he's got to look for? I mean, Indiana hasn't had shooters forever, so I don't know if I should even dream the dream at this point. But but what type of player are you trying to find to fit with Coach DeVries' system?
Well, you better be able to shoot because it's going to be a 3-and-D scheme, and you better be willing to compete, and you better be willing to subvert the selfish in order for the team to succeed. That I think those are a given, and he's serious about those. And he talks about the standards of the program in much the same way that Kurt Signetti has, where we're going to establish a standard and we're going to discipline toward that standard. We're going to meet that standard, or people can go play someplace else. And I think that's the dog wagging the tail. And what's happened in Bloomington, I think this goes back to Archie Miller, is you've had the tail wagging the dog. The players can't run the program, or you wind up being where Indiana's at. And maybe that's part of the disconnect that's caused a lot of these guys, all but one of these guys, to abandon ship and decide to play elsewhere.
Talking to Ken Sterling, joining us here on the Sports Rush. And, of course, as we move into the Sweet 16, the big talk this week, not about the matchups, but about the transfer portal, which the NCAA's got this system all wrong. What can they do to fix it?
Well, you've got to adjust the timing, and it becomes a little bit difficult because basketball is scheduled the way it is, and it's a little bit similar to the NBA, where the NFL's got the best schedule ever. The NFL just makes sense. They've got a 12-month calendar where there's stuff going on all the time, even in the off season. And then the NBA's got free agency that starts at a time in the draft. You can't announce trades until you get to the beginning of the league year and all of this other nonsense. And you've kind of got the same thing with basketball. I think you need to clean all of that up. And you need to clean it up with football, too. You know, football's got the dual commitment dates. You know, you've got fall signing, you've got spring signing, and I understand why they wanted to get a lot of that stuff, a lot of that hay in the barn early so the guys could have some time off, but it's mutated to where they don't have any time off anyway. And so basketball, they got to clean that up. And I wish the NCAA would move away from coach-driven ruling. You know, like the coaches kind of assert their own rules, and I don't think that they do a very good job of it. And it's not fan-friendly in the way they do it, and I don't think it's player-friendly. I think it's for their own convenience in a lot of cases, but they've got to get this. I mean, if the portal is open and teams are still working in the Sweet 16 and playing, and they're supposed to recruit portal guys, and you've got a guy like Pippen from Michigan entering the portal as his team is still in the tournament, that's not good for anybody.
Kent, I got to ask you about this. I brought it up earlier in the show, and having a 20-something producer, I need to find an older guy that's in my generation to argue or debate this and get your take on it. I said earlier that Dan Hurley is this generation's Bobby Knight. Yes or no?
That's a really good question. I think Knight had more gravitas than Hurley's got. I think when Knight said stuff, people listened and then laughed. And I think when Hurley says stuff, they wince, then laugh, and then maybe they wonder about the man's sanity. You know, I think that Knight was if Hurley walked down a hall and like I met his eye, I'd think, well, yeah, who's that weasel? When Bob Knight walked down a hall and you saw Bob Knight, you're like, holy hell, how do I get out of this hallway? He was the most intimidating, skulking, walking guy that I've ever seen in person. When I saw him, I was a student in the Union down at IU, and he was hosting like a recruit and two parents, and they came walking down the hall, and I took a right and went down some stairs. I mean, that's just, he looked like a guy, you didn't even want to be in his presence. I don't think Hurley's that kind of guy.
No, the thing that gets me about Hurley, and there's a number of things that I see similarities as far as the the ego, the fact that he seems entitled or invincible right now, that he can get away with whatever he wants to get away with. The belittling nature of how he talks down to people that, and you know, the thing with Bobby Knight, yes, there was a lot of laughter and a lot of times it was jokes, but there was also that acceptance because he won and the fans adored him for winning, and so they tolerated some of the behavior that especially today would not be accepted. But with Hurley, I said, you know, two bad seasons, and let's see how much this behavior becomes a bigger factor. You change administration, and how much does it matter? Because right now he feels invincible and entitled, and he just wears on me, man. But I see the similarities. It is a different day and age, so it might be perceived differently. But I kind of see Hurley as one of those guys in college basketball right now that fits a lot of the things that were associated with Bobby Knight back in the day.
And one of the things that we don't know, and we knew about Bob Knight because we were here, that 365 days a year, he wasn't crazy. You know, you might have had 3 incidents a year that really painted him as some kind of crackpot. But the other, like 362 days, he was the coach at Indiana. He was well respected. He respected others. He visited people in senior living centers and signed basketballs and did all kinds of things for charity. Here in Indiana, we might not know what Dan Hurley does in Connecticut. Maybe Hurley does that kind of thing to outreach toward fans and be a force for good in the Stores community. I don't know, but I do know that Bob Knight did that, and there was a lot of equity that and a lot of leeway that was given to Bob Knight because he touched so many people down in southern Indiana.
The big weekend in Indianapolis with Houston, Purdue, Kentucky, Tennessee. Who survives and heads to the Final Four?
I'll tell you who might not survive are the people who start drinking early in the bars down in Indianapolis. They might not survive because people from Kentucky, Tennessee, Purdue, and they're coming, and they're not coming with empty pockets. So we're looking forward to a good weekend. But I really think that, man, it's hard for me to figure out a way that Houston, as well as they defend, it's hard for me to figure out a way that they don't go to the Final Four. I would love for Purdue to beat them. Like, I never say boiler up, but this week I'm saying boiler up. I'm going to wear black and gold. I can't stand Kelvin Sampson. I want to see him lose so much more than I want to see Purdue lose that I am Joe Purdue right now.
Yeah, I just don't like the matchup for Purdue because one of the things they've struggled with this year is turning the ball over, and that is where Houston absolutely feasts on opponents. And so I'm a little concerned about the matchup, but we'll see. Should be a fun weekend. Kent, appreciate you jumping on with us. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thanks, Brett.
Yep, that is Kent Sterling from KentSterling.com. We'll take a break. We'll come back. It's a Sports Rush on a Wednesday on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.
This is Joe Tippmann, and you're listening to the Sports Rush with Brett Rump on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.
Welcome back, a final time to the Sports Rush, your daily local sports fix, 4 to 6. Coming up tonight, we've got Pacers basketball. They're taking on the Los Angeles Lakers down at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. We'll have the broadcast for you with a tip-off scheduled at 7:30 tonight. Then, of course, coming up, starting tomorrow, all weekend long, coverage of the NCAA tournament from Westwood 1 right here on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Well, that will just about do it for our Wednesday show. Big thanks to Maria Marcasano, women's basketball coach, Purdue Fort Wayne, for joining us. Once again, on Friday, they will take on Butler, Coach Marcasano's alma mater. That'll be at the Gates Center, a home game against a power conference opponent, 7 o'clock Friday. And big thanks, too, to Kent Sterling for joining us in our second hour. Back tomorrow, 4 to 6 with the Sports Rush on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.